Hello, and welcome to Going for Broadway. I'm Eryn Wu, and each week I chat with playwrights, directors, actors, talent agents, and many others who live their lives in, on, and around the stage. I'm sharing their secrets so you, too, can join me on this journey towards Broadway. And on the first day, God said, "Cue on go." And there was light!
Welcome to the Going for Broadway podcast with Eryn Wu. Eryn is a young performer who has acted and sung in many plays and has dreams of reaching Broadway. Each day is another step closer to that goal.
Hey, rising stars. Welcome to Going for Broadway. Today I have Miss Beth Glover with us. Originally from Mississippi, Beth had received a degree in broadcast journalism and started her working career working for CNN in Atlanta and then later transferring to the New York offices. It was the move to New York City when she decided to change her career path and pursue acting instead. So she studied acting in the evenings while she worked her day job at CNN. And the very day of her American Academy of Dramatic Arts audition, Beth was casted in the touring company of the Taffetas. With that great beginning, she quickly became accustomed to the life of a professional actress, being steadily employed in the theater and small films and TV. She was part of the Drama Desk and Outer Critics Circle nominated revival of Take Me Along at Irish Preparatory Theater in NYC in the role of Lily. Beth was also voted Best Leading Actress in a Musical by the San Francisco Bay Area Critics Circle for portrayal of Edith Bouvier Bial and Little Edie Bial in the regional theater premiere of Grey Gardens at TheaterWorks of Palo Alto, California. Her mile-long resume consists of film and television, regional theater credits, off-Broadway productions, and national tours, and one of those tours currently in Cinderella as Madame. So you went to university to study broadcast journalism, and after graduation went to work for CNN. So were you acting before or during all of this?
Yeah, my dad ran the little theater in our hometown, and so I was around it really from a very, very small age. I remember being around all the guys that ran the theater with my dad, and then I didn't act in their company because my dad had to stop working with them when my sister was born because she was very ill. And there's a musical theater group in our town, in my hometown. And I got involved with them because I was dancing at the university, and so I started dancing with them. So really my background started with dance and then singing and then acting. And the really weird thing about that is that now I describe myself as an actor who sings and dances. It's that evolution is pretty fascinating to me because I really did start as a dancer. I wanted so much to be in a ballet company or a modern dance company when I was a teenager. And it just took a while for me to learn that I'm in Mississippi and the level there, even though we do have great dancers that come out of there, it just took me a while to realize where my abilities lie as a performer. And it all worked out for the best. But, you really have to pay attention to all of that. Where are your strengths? Where are your weaknesses? And even if you love it beyond anything, you have to realize that you probably aren't going to get for me, I wasn't going to get in the dance and not flexible enough.
Then working for CNN in New York, you attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. So how did you accomplish that?
Well, in college, I applied for internships and applied all over the country, and I got 3. WGBH in Boston, which is the PBS station, which is fantastic. And then I applied to a television station in Hawaii because I thought, wow, if I could swing that would be awesome. And they picked me up. And then CNN in Atlanta picked me up. And then I realized that internships don't pay, so I had to have, I had to live somewhere. And my aunt lived in Atlanta, and also CNN was just starting out, and this was 1985 into 86, and it was just an amazing opportunity. And so I worked there, and at night I would go to acting classes, because when I first got there, it was really exciting. But one day I was standing in the newsroom, and I like to say I heard a voice tell me I was in the wrong place, because it's really what I heard and felt. I'm a very early person. I get everywhere too early. I say I'm chronically early. And I got to the newsroom. The newsroom was always buzzing. But if you got there at like 6, 7 a.m., you know, it was just a core group of writers and the anchors, and it was quiet. I just remember standing in there and it being so quiet, but maybe it was buzzing and I felt it quiet. So I thought, well, if I don't start working on the acting end of things, if I don't try that at this age, I'll never do it. And while I was in Atlanta, I was promoted a couple of times, which was really amazing. I moved from the newsroom into marketing and started getting paid. I was no longer an internship. And like I said, going to acting classes at night, and then I auditioned for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, which is the oldest conservatory of acting in the country. It's not AMDA. AMDA is a musical. It's for musicals. The American Academy is acting, strictly acting. You do voice work, and they do have singing in the program, but it's not a musical theater program.
Okay.
And I resigned from my post in Atlanta, and they said, well, why don't we just transfer you to New York so that you'll have a job when you get there? And I was just, wow, blown away. And I worked for them about 20 hours a week. I went to school 20 hours a week. So that meant that I had to have I got 4 jobs when I got to the city, because I didn't know how much it would cost for me to live there. And I had saved a lot of money. My parents matched my money that I saved, because I was also waiting tables in Atlanta. I don't know when I slept in Atlanta. I don't. I worked at CNN. I was at the theater at night. And then I would wait tables on the weekends. The producer that I was working for in New York, after I worked at CNN for a year, she just said to me, I think you have potential, and I want to have you full time. She said, but you've got to make a choice. She said, if you really want to act, you need to leave us. And it's the best advice I ever got, because I was still split in what I was doing with my life.
Right.
And once I focused on the acting, and it was smart move.
So, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, was that a 2-year program or 4-year program?
It's 2 years. You have to be invited to the second year. And then they have an acting company third year. And so you graduate the second year, and then you're invited to the third year. And
okay.
When I graduated, I had been invited to the third year. So we were at the Shubert Theater for our graduation ceremony, and my entire family had come from Mississippi, and they were sitting in the theater. And I'm an overachiever. I always have been. And when I graduated from Southern Miss with my broadcast journalism degree, I had won every award you could win. I mean, it was stupid how many things that I won. And it's mainly because I got that internship at CNN. I was the first graduate of the school to get an internship like that, of that magnitude. So I was winning no awards, graduating from the American Academy, my dream thing that I wanted to do. And I thought, oh, my family must just be panicking in this theater. So I got up to go meet them after the ceremony, and the dean of the school, whom I did not get along with, I couldn't stand him, and he couldn't stand me, which is probably one of the reasons I didn't win anything. I'm sure he stood in my way. Mm-hmm. And he came up to me and he said, there's a producer here that would like to meet you. And I very sarcastically said, that's really hilarious. That's not nice of you to do that when I've got to go meet my family. He said, you need to listen to me. I'm not kidding. There's a producer here that wants to meet you. So I met a gentleman named Arthur Whitelaw. He produced You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. That's the biggest thing that he produced. He also gave Liza Minnelli her first Broadway show, Flora the Red Menace. Yeah, he's an interesting, very sweet man. And he said, I'm having auditions for a show this afternoon. Can you come? And I said, well, of course I can come, what time? And I said, but my whole family's here, so I have to, get them to the restaurant where we're planning to celebrate my graduation, and then I can come. And he said, we will be there. We will totally be there for you. And I said, okay. So I got my family to the restaurant. I lived illegally at Columbia, which is one of the funnest things in the world. Funnest, I love to use words, that don't exist.
Yeah.
And I got my music book and went to this audition, and I sang for them, and we chatted, and they asked me some questions, and they asked me to read some copy from the script. It was for the Taffetas, which was off Broadway, and this was for the first national tour of it. And I just said, I gotta go now. And they were like, well, why are you going before you know if you got the job? And I said, well, in my limited experience, that's not how it happens,
Mm-hmm.
You'll call me. And they said, well, we just want to tell you right now. And I said, okay. And they said, you got the job.
Wow.
You start rehearsal in, I guess it was 2 weeks, something. And I don't know, remember if I cried or what. I was just beside myself. And I thought, well, this is the universe telling me that I'm finally in the right place.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I win awards or whatever. It's the job. It's the work that matters. And that was opening for Ray Charles. I mean, that was 5-star hotels. My very first professional job. It was sort of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much fun. Oh my gosh, the girls were so great. The women I worked with. And my family, they didn't believe me when I came back to the restaurant. They thought I was making it up. And then, of course, they did believe me, but it was very funny.
So what did you think at the time? I mean, you were literally fresh out of school, and it was like living the dream. Like, was this what you envisioned for yourself?
Well, it is what I envisioned for myself, but I also knew the reality of the business is that you can go for a year without working or 2 years without working, and you have to stay the course. But you also, and it's hard. You have to have other jobs to survive during that time. I did a lot of temp work after that. I thought I would just keep working after that. And I did. I still had to get a temp job. And I worked for all kinds of different companies, Wall Street and Financial District and up in Midtown, investment banking, because those paid me the most.
Yeah.
I could make anywhere from $15 to $25 an hour. So, I had an apartment very early on.
Right.
Because my temp job. And I owe that to CNN because my computer skills were crazy. I could work on a PC. I could work on a Mac. I just had so many skills back then.
Yeah.
But I did work steadily after that, and I thought, well, I'll stay non-union. I did a really big tour after the Taffetas. I did Anything Goes, the non-union Anything Goes. I was Reno, and I wore Patti LuPone's costumes.
Nice.
Our sets were from Lincoln Center. It was crazy. And I got to tell Patti that a year ago because I did a workshop of a new musical with her, and she thought it was hilarious because I'm much taller than she is. So I couldn't wear all of her costumes, but some of them I could wear. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to be able to tell her that and, chat about that show.
Many of my audience are like me, middle/high school students who dream of a career in drama or on stage. So do you think that one should invest into 4 years of study at university to continue developing and improving their craft? Or do you think this time would be better spent moving to New York, taking workshops and classes, maybe some intensive 2-year programs, getting in front of talent, casting agents, and just auditioning?
Well, there's different schools of thought on absolutely everything. I think that it's an individual decision, who you are, your personality, your drive, and really assessing your skill level. But I will tell you this, that the landscape has changed since I got to New York. I did graduate from the American Academy, and, that school's still producing great people. Anne Hathaway, Paul Rudd. it's still producing great people.
Yeah.
But in terms of big acting schools, Carnegie Mellon, Northwestern, Yale, Boston Conservatory for musical theater, CCM, Cincinnati Conservatory of Music for musical theater. If you, University of Michigan, their musical theater program, if you come out of any of those schools, I mean, you are looked at immediately.
Yeah.
You really are, and you have you have a leg up in the business the minute you hit the city, because those schools have screened you, or Juilliard. I didn't even say Juilliard. They've screened you, they've trained you, so casting directors and agents go, oh my gosh, this kid's got it. They don't even have to think about it. This kid has come out with the skills, with everything. And yet, I'm working right now with young people in the ensemble of Cinderella who, they've got mad skills, and they didn't go to those schools. They maybe did a 2-year program, or they came right to New York, and they just took classes and workshops like you're talking about, and they went on auditions, and they booked the show. And that's the thing. My dad used to say this to me, God rest his soul. Show business is the one area of careers, the one career in all the careers that you really, there's no set path. You can make your own path. But Eryn, you have to be tenacious, and you have to, at every step, assess your skills and go look around you at auditions and go, oh, wait a minute. That person is, whatever, and go up to them and say, hey, what classes are you taking?
Okay.
And really ask people, where are you going? What are you doing? So that you're always learning and always improving. I have never stopped taking voice lessons. I don't take as many dance classes anymore because I'm older and it's not required of me to dance like I used to. And I was never considered like a cheetah or that kind of performer. So I don't have that heaped on me. People think of me as an actor who sings. And that's why I go back and forth from plays to musicals. So, yeah, it's really being tenacious and picking the best path for you. And getting into a good school is always a good idea. And a lot of people do school, then they go to New York, they work a little bit, and then they go get their master's. Because if you get tired of the grind, you can go teach somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's all about what's inside you and what you want. And I think that's true for any career. Show business is just, I hate to even say it out loud, it's just harder. But you can't think of it as hard when you're doing it. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
One foot in front of the other, seeing the dream, and listening to people. If a casting director takes you aside and says, Eryn, you have got to work on your mix if you're singing, or you've got to work on finding the truth in your monologue and really, really telling the story, or whatever. You've got to listen to them, because if they're talking to you, that means that they're seeing something, and they're going to keep bringing you in.
Okay.
And you will book jobs. Yeah, it's pretty great, the relationships you make.
Yeah. And so obviously you are very successful. You've done numerous touring gigs. You're on stage a lot in New York City. Your resume is like a mile long. But you emphasize that the life of a professional isn't all 5-star hotels, and more importantly, it is the work that matters. Could you go into what you mean by this a little more, please?
Yeah. Sometimes you'll be in a job and you've taken it. There are many reasons why you take a job. Sometimes you take it because our insurance through the union is by weeks. So you got to earn 12 weeks or 6 months. You have to work 12 weeks to get 6 months of insurance, or 20 weeks to earn a year. So sometimes you'll take a job because you need the insurance weeks. So you get there and you think, yeah, I'm gonna do this job and earn these weeks. And then for me, I get there, I'm like, oh my gosh, this material has more to it than I thought. So I'm going to mine it for all it's worth. I'm going to find out who this character is, what she has to say, why she's in this play or this musical, and I'm really going to invest myself. And suddenly it's not about my insurance weeks. It's about creating something, and it's about the relationships that I make with the company and telling the story together. So it's always about the work, and you have to remind yourself that. Like now I'm on the road with a musical, and I'm making really good money. And I'm, of course, earning my insurance weeks hand over fist because I'm working. It's such a long tour. Mm-hmm. So this is 8 times a week. I'm repeating, the same material every night. So I have to remember and put in practice every day that it has to be fresh. Doesn't matter that I did it last night. Doesn't matter that I performed it over 200 times.
Right.
Tonight, it's brand new. This audience has never seen it, or maybe they have. So I owe them my performance. I owe them telling this story and telling it the best that I can with all of the energy that I have today.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by it's the work that matters.
Cinderella isn't your first national tour. You've also been in All Shook Up, a show that I recently had the opportunity to be in.
Who did you play?
Yeah, I was in the ensemble, and I got to faint every time Chad came on stage, so that was cool.
It's a wonderful show.
It is.
I love it so much.
It's hilarious. All right, All Shook Up, you said earlier, Anything Goes, Dirty Blonde, and many others. So how do you get each of these opportunities just one after another? Do you have, an agent, or do you go out and audition yourself?
Well, when I first started out, I would go to open calls, and you can be seen for union calls if you wait until the end, which sometimes you get seen and sometimes you don't. You sit there and you tell the monitor that you're non-union and you're here, and you just sit and wait. I did that several times. I got an agent, though, really quickly, and that was really good luck, and they send you on auditions. There's something called the breakdown services, and it's what the casting directors use to put out notices. And there's an arm of the breakdown services that everybody can use. It's called Actors Access. And you go on there, you build a profile, and then you can buy a submission. I think it's $2. You can submit your headshot and resume to the casting director and all of your information for $2, and then they may or may not call you for the audition. But I think $2 is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
And then there are other services where you just like Playbill and Backstage, and even the Equity site. You can go on and look and see where the union and non-union auditions are. So there's a lot of non-union now. So you can work a lot. Like I said, I thought I would work non-union a long time, but I didn't. I worked non-union only 2 years. And then I booked my first union gig and got my card. So I've been union since 1991 or 2, something like that. And that's how I get auditions, is through my agent. But I still go on the site and see if I'm missing anything, or my agents are missing anything. My agents are very good, but, yeah, they're human. And so sometimes I'll write them and say, hey, submit me for XYZ. And sometimes I'll just submit myself. If it's a gig I want and they won't make any money, I'll just submit myself. I've done a lot of independent film work, and a lot of it's not on my resume because it just doesn't matter. It's stuff that no one can see, but it mattered to me because I got to work with really creative, fun people on an interesting story.
And so what is being on tour like? Like, how is that lifestyle of traveling from city to city to perform in front of so many different audiences?
Well, it's really great because you are going city to city, and each house is different, and this house is really cavernous, and we just came from a very intimate house. So it does change up your performance. It's like retooling not every Tuesday, but almost every Tuesday when we play 1 weekers. Sometimes we sit for 2 or 3 weeks. LA was 6 weeks. And then there's taking care of yourself because, you're on an airplane and you've got to really hydrate because airplanes are dehydrating. And then you're in a different hotel room, and our company management does a really good job. They find us a gym, usually for free. And the hotel always has some sort of fitness center.
Right.
But you got to stay in shape. You got to take your vitamins. You know, try to eat right. And it's just acclimating yourself the minute you get to a city. And, you know, keeping a routine is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to bed at a decent hour, making sure you get your sleep. But then you also have to remember not to be a hermit. It's so easy to just hermit up with the HBO, you know?
Yeah.
In your hotel room, you have to go, oh, no, I got to go out with friends. I got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And so you call people and do things. I know I'm traveling with 55 people, and sometimes I don't see them until I get to the show. And sometimes that's really healthy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a balance. It's all a balance, just like life.
Yeah. Right. And you've done so many regional theater productions as well. So how do you get into these opportunities? And do you do them like in between different tours or other productions?
Yeah, I mean, everything is auditioning. So everything on my resume I got through some sort of audition or interview process, or someone just knowing me because I've been around so long, and they just call me and say, hey, will you come do this play in my theater? And of course, I say yes if I'm available, or I say yes because I like to play, or I say no, I'm not available, or no, because I don't want to do that play or musical because it doesn't speak to me. But that's rare. I mean, if you get a job offer, usually you take it, even if it's crap. I mean, I've done some terrible shows, and you do it because you want to work on something.
Mm-hmm.
You want to work with great people. Because most of the time that I've worked on things that really aren't good, I've worked with great people. So it's worth the effort. But everything is through auditioning. And you had mentioned in your notes that you sent me that you had asked me if sometimes they overlap. And yes, they do. And sometimes you have to pick and choose. Like I had booked for 2 theaters, the Addams Family, last year, 2 theaters that I love to work in. And, of course, I had said yes, but I hadn't signed a contract, which is key to the story I'm about to tell you, because then I booked Cinderella. And if I had signed the contract for the Addams Family, I would have had to pay them a little bit of money to get out of the contract to do Cinderella. And, of course, I would have done it.
Okay.
But I didn't have to because I didn't sign a contract. And I also knew the director, and he was like, I'm so sorry to lose you, but, I've got a great second choice, so I'll go with her, and I'll work with you again. So it's the nature of the beast.
Right. I noticed that you are a specialist with dialects, so you've used a couple in your performances?
Mainly just British. There's RP, which is speaking like perfect British accent, like the Queen.
Yeah.
And then there are regional accents where it's wider and you talk like this. And each one is different. There's Yorkshire, and then, of course, there's Cockney, which is very difficult. It's really helpful if you get the copy, the play first, and work on it phonetically.
Okay.
And that way, when you approach the material with your acting choices, the accent is already there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I've mainly done a little bit of Irish and the British Isles.
Yeah.
And then Southern, and that's about it. No one ever asked me to be French. And the problem with French accents is that you can sort of sound like a frog, and it's a hard accent. German's hard. I think South African is the hardest, Australian. And then I'm from the South, so I've done a couple shows where I have a Southern accent, and that's really easy.
And I bet you've heard a lot of Southern people down here in Greenville right now.
My dresser, she's got a really thick Southern accent.
Yeah.
She's like, kind of talks like this, kind of slow and down, and she's really, really sweet, though. I like her.
And another thing you've done a lot of, you said earlier, independent films, some television, and soap operas. I've heard that people say that the training one gets from being in a soap opera is different and intense. So many lines, you're live sometimes. Is that true?
Yeah. And it's very, very fast because they shoot anywhere from 40 to 80 pages a day, and because they're producing a show a day. And the only time they go live is if something has happened with a character that they need to change when that show airs. So they'll air part of the show, and then they'll go live for the part that they need to change. But again, that's so rarely done now, unless they're promoting something and they want everybody to know they're live and want people to tune in. So it's really fun. The thing about soap opera acting is you can fall into traps where you stop being free because you've got to get the lines out and tell the story as quickly as possible. So it's a matter of staying free and really, really playing off the other actor.
Yeah.
But it is good training ground for sure, because it's a 16-hour day. You got to get those lines and hit your marks.
Yeah. And how is working on camera different from working on stage?
Well, I just said hit your marks. You know, when you're on stage and you're blocking something, you still have to end up in the same spot because there's lighting and your fellow actors on stage with you, so you want to honor the blocking that the director has given you. In television, and film, it's much more precise because you're walking not only into your light, but you're also walking into a camera angle. So the director has said to you, hit this mark on this line, and then the cameraman knows to do that, and also the technician in the booth knows to hit the right button to make your face come on the screen. So it's very technical.
Yeah.
And after you do it, like, I don't know, for me it was like 5 minutes. It was like, oh, okay. And then I had it.
Yeah.
Because it really is no different than blocking. It's just very, very precise. And sometimes, I've only had this twice, they will put a sandbag. If you're walking a far distance, and you're looking at another character and they don't want you to look down, they'll put a sandbag on your mark so that you'll stop at the sandbag. Your foot will hit it, and it sounds like you're going to trip or do something weird. You won't, because you know it's coming.
Yeah. And
I love a good sandbag, because then I don't have to count my steps. I don't have to worry. I just know I'm going to walk and I'll stop. So,
okay.
Yeah, little technical things like that and are helpful, and everybody wants you to get the shot, so they're going to do everything they can to help you out.
And did you get film and television training from the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, or did you get that from CNN?
No, you've got to take separate classes. I mean, you know, your acting training is going to serve you everywhere, you know, in every medium, but there are a lot of classes in New York where you go and you work on your camera angles, and you work on the things that I'm talking about, and you incorporate your acting, and there's some great teachers. Some of it's expensive, and the union offers classes that aren't expensive. So it's just a matter, like I said before, of talking to other actors and saying, hey, where did you go? How much was it? Did you like the teacher, the instructor? That's helped me a lot. But my first film work and everything, I had no training, and you know, the director's going to tell you, I'm going to do a 3/4 shot in this scene, and it's all going to be on you. So that's information that you just take in and you do it, and they'll say, well, you were looking in a weird direction. Can you look more this way, and we'll do the scene again? You know, and so you do it. It's like that, and they'll say, we need you to be bigger, we need you to be smaller in terms of your reaction.
Right.
Usually with film and television, you want to be smaller because the camera is so close.
Another additional thing you've done is being involved in a few sketch comedies. So what exactly is sketch comedy?
Gosh, I'm trying to think of their show. Well, whose line is it anyway? That's all improv, but they sort of end up doing sketches because they're given a subject matter and they sort of riff on it and find the humor in it and the characters. So I started a sketch group with another woman named Jennifer Giles back in 1995, which feels like a century ago. I can't believe it's 20 years. And we got some guys to work with us, some actors, and we got a writer, and we just started writing sketches, and they were all about different things. One of the sketches I wrote was about, it was a real feminist sketch, and it was set in a fictional pageant training camp. And so two girls are doing all the things that you would do to get ready for a pageant, and this army, quote-unquote army drill sergeant would yell at them, how do you feel about abortion? And they'd have to answer. And, really about very, very serious subjects. How do you feel about war? How do you feel about torture? And it was very funny, but it was very, very political. And those are my favorite sketches, the ones that were really biting.
Right.
Like the best stand-up comedians, they get into real social issues, and they're still very, very funny. So we became the house group for Gotham Comedy Club in New York City. We performed every week. One of our members was Rob Corddry, and he's very famous now. If you watch any of the Judd Apatow movies, he's on the new series on HBO, Ballers.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was in our group, and Jennifer Perry was in our group. She's on Broadway in Kinky Boots. Yeah, we turned out a bunch of comedy, and then we all went our separate ways and all have pretty nice careers.
Cool. And in a couple of productions you've done, you've also understudied. So how long were you given to learn and prepare for these roles?
Usually as an understudy, you're brought in at the very beginning.
Okay.
With everybody else. So when I covered Dirty Blonde, I was off stage, so I only had to learn that. I didn't have to learn anything else. Okay. I only had to learn who I was understudying, her part. But when I understudied Like Christmas, I understudied Lorna Luft. She's Judy Garland's other daughter, who's incredibly talented and got a huge career. I took that job because she was out for a week for concerts, so I was definitely on for a week. So I had to be in the show as well. But that was really easy. I don't like understudying because I don't want somebody coming to my dressing room 30 minutes before curtain and telling me I'm on. Mm-hmm. That's not something I enjoy. But to do it for a week, knowing that I'm going on for a week, fantastic.
Yeah.
So I did the show, and then I went on for her for a week, and then I continued the show until it closed. So that ended up being a great gig.
So you just have so many different things on your plate. So how are you able to keep a steady schedule? Do you have any advice on being able to balance out a bunch of productions and jobs that one would have?
Well, it's like I said before, it's all about your personality. I thought that when you get to New York, you have to wait tables,
Yeah.
But that's what I had to do. So I waited tables for a little while, and oh my gosh, I hated it. I did it for like a year and a half. I made a lot of money, but I just didn't like it. And you have to be at work at 4 for a dinner shift, 4:30, so you can set up and get ready. And
mm-hmm.
and a lot of restaurants don't close anymore, between lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
So that meant that I couldn't do theater at night, and I couldn't go see theater at night, and that wasn't a good schedule. So I started temping during the day, and I would be like the assistant to some boss, to some big person. So I would tell them that I was an actor right away and that I was going to go on auditions, but I would always get my work done and make sure that they were taken care of. And it worked out beautifully for me because I would come in the morning and I would say, I have an audition at 2, so I'm taking my lunch at 2. So they would have it in their head that I'd be gone from 2 to 3:30. It would take me, 30 minutes to get to the audition, do the audition, and then 30 minutes to get back.
Right.
So, you work out your life. If I had more than one audition, during the day, I would either work a half day and get another temp to take my place the half of the day, or call in sick. You know?
Yeah.
You just make it work for yourself, because you got to pay your rent, but you also have to be pursuing your dream.
Right.
So, you know, and I wanted to take classes too, so I take class at night and go to the theater at night. So that schedule works for me.
Okay. Do you have any additional advice that you would like to give aspiring young actors in reaching their goals in acting and potentially being on Broadway or touring nationally?
Well, you know, it's a hard lesson to learn, but it's not a hard lesson, but it's important. You've got to subdue your fears. You got to put them aside and just go for it. And when you're at the audition, whether it's an open call or whatever, and you're being seen, you have got to be your best self, and remember that you are making relationships with every person in the room, even if you think they're not looking at you, because sometimes they're not. And it will piss you off because you've prepared for that audition for, you know, a week or 2 weeks. You've worked on that song, you've worked on that monologue, and they're not looking at you. You have got to put that aside and do your very best work. Because not only will you improve, you are banking. That's what I call it. I call it banking. You are investing in yourself, and you're investing in the relationship of the people in the room, with the people in the room. And that is what's going to make your career. Investing in your talent and investing in these relationships. So that when you see them, you say, hey, Jay, you know, he's a big casting director in New York. Jay Bender, really, Jay, how are you? And it doesn't matter if he's dismissive or whatever. You said his name, you said hello, and you go and sit down. He's checked you off as that you're there. If he looks like he doesn't remember you, you say, hey, it's Eryn. You know, I saw you for XYZ, or I'm so excited to come in for this because I'm excited to meet this director. You know, you just want to say things and do things, but you want to move out of their way because they're busy.
Right.
You don't want to stay and try to chat them up. You just want to, hi, it's Eryn. Great to see you, Jay. Thank you. And go sit down. And then when you finish your audition, you always want to have the presence of mind to turn to the room and thank them. Thank them so much for the opportunity. You don't want to be overly gracious because they're lucky to see you too, you know? But you really want to say thank you for the opportunity because, oh my gosh, there are 500 people that could be coming in your spot.
Yeah.
So it's so important to invest in yourself, your talent, and invest in those relationships and your work.
Okay. And do you have any advice that you would like to give to the parents of these aspiring young actors?
Well, you've got to give them room to fly. Let them see what it is. What is it? Can I do it? And give them at least a couple of years to net it out, you know? Suss out what is right for them. And they'll figure it out. And be gentle. Like if you think that they're not taking the right path, don't be a jerk. You know, don't pull them aside and say something horrible. Have a real conversation. Go through the pros and cons. Go through what is actually happening with your child, with your now friend, your adult child. I mean, I've seen so many people stay in the business because their parents are mean to them. And rather than having a meaningful dialogue about what is actually happening, because you want your child to succeed and be happy. And what if your child always is in a day job and is acting at night in some downtown theater? I have a really good friend who's a brilliant actor, and you don't know him. He doesn't have a website. He has a day job, and he does some of the greatest acting in downtown New York theater that I've ever seen. But he makes very little money. He doesn't care. He is so happy creating art. And his parents, they've finally given up trying to get him to do another profession. So it's individual. I mean, it's like we were talking about at the beginning. What is your personality? You know, what do you need? If you need a lot of money, acting might not be for you, because some years you'll make $19,000 and some years you'll make $100,000.
Yeah.
You just never know. And I've been without a day job since 1999, 2000, because I started doing commercials.
Okay.
And that commercials and voiceovers became my day job. So I was making enough money to make my rent and pay my bills. So I haven't had a day job in a really long time. But still, I sometimes some years only make $19,000, and then the next year I'll make $35,000, and then maybe the next year I'll make $50,000. It's never the same. Mm-hmm. So again, I haven't even said this: financial planning. You got to save money no matter how much money you're making, because when somebody comes to you with a project that pays nothing and you love it, you have to be able to do it and still make your rent. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
My mom was very pragmatic. She was a school teacher, and she didn't get it. She didn't understand what I was doing. She was like, "You're leaving a great job at CNN. You've been promoted. They even moved you to New York." She said, "But I'm going to support you in this career change and see where it takes you." She was really, really kind and loving.
Yeah.
And I don't think she got it until I got in the union and started earning my insurance. And then I think she got it. She was like, "Oh, it's a real career." And then I didn't care about being famous. And my family didn't understand that, because they thought successful actors had to be famous. And now that I, have worked 25 years steadily, they get it.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, you're an actor." And I'm like, "Yes, you're not famous, but I'm an actor. Yes, I'm a working actor. I make my living at this." So it's all good.
Yeah.
Gotta love each other and support each other.
Yeah. Well, Beth, thank you so much again for your time and being here today and sharing all of your insights. And I look forward to seeing you Saturday at 2 in Cinderella.
Wonderful.
Yep.
You're going to see which show, the matinee?
Yes.
All right. Well, come to the stage door afterwards, please.
Yeah, sure, I will.
Okay, Eryn.
Thank you again.
This was great.
So, thanks again to Beth Glover for some awesome stories and wisdom to go along with it. And for those of you who are listening, I just want to say thanks again so much. It's always such a pleasure to create these shows for you, and I enjoy it and learn so much. And I also enjoy just being on the listener end of it, going back and listening. So I've got a lot more great episodes lined up for the future. So please, if you can, head over to iTunes, leave me a couple comments, and just please take what you learn here and implement it out there on the world stage. I look forward to hearing from you and all of your great successes. And so just stay safe and healthy, and I'll talk to you soon.